Today I'm going to be speaking to you about the proposed Keystone Pipeline. Specifically, I'm going to be addressing the two major concerns, the economic concerns and the environmental concerns of building this proposed pipeline. George Bush, in a speech, once said that America is addicted to oil. Well, we are addicted to oil. It's in everything we use today. It's in the gas we use in our cars, it's in the plastics, plastic water bottles we drink from, all the way down to the fertilizers we apply to modern agriculture. There's been a lot of speculation in the news about this pipeline as to the number of jobs it would create, whether it would lower our dependence on foreign oil, whether it would lower fuel prices at the pump. There's also articles pertaining to the environment, whether it would cause oil spills, water contamination, and of course, carbon levels to rise, carbon emissions. Now, as to the economic side, in an article, Study Evaluates Economic Impact of Keystone Pipeline from Business Wire 2012, found that the regional economic model stated that the Keystone Pipeline would create 16,000 jobs, not the hundreds of thousands widely speculated in the news, with only about 800 jobs moving forward. States within the path of this pipeline would see approximately $3 billion increase in GDP and an additional $6 billion in business sales. However, this oil is what they call a dirty oil. It has a very low return on investment. What do I mean by that? Well, in an article, Oil Sands Mining Uses as Much Energy as it Produces from Climate News 2012, the study showed that regular oil has a value of 25 to 1. That means that you get 25 units of energy for every 1 unit of energy used to produce it. Tar sands, on the other hand, you get 5 units of energy for every 1 unit used to produce it. And if you have to dig deeper to retrieve the tar sands using steam injection, these other types of modern technology, that value drops to 2.9 to 1. So it has a very low return of investment. What about the environmental impacts of building this pipeline? Well, James Hansen, head of the Goddard Institute of Space Studies with NASA, was quoted in the New York Times in 2012 as stating that if we build this pipeline, it is game over for the planet. Well, what does he mean by that? Well, the tar sands contain twice the CO2 as emitted throughout the entire history of burning fossil fuels. This assures the ice caps melt, the rises of sea levels, and the destruction of coastal cities. New York, Florida's underwater. That's all in the long term. We're not just talking United States, we're talking worldwide. The short term. What are the short-term pitfalls? Well, you see semi-permanent droughts in areas, as we did last year, 2012, in the agricultural belt. Massive crop losses from the drought. If you watch the news, you've probably been seeing these things. We also have severe rainfall. You saw Superstorm Sandy. The economic loss from that was $50 billion in insurance losses alone. Hansen went on to explain that in the last 150 years, our carbon levels have risen from approximately 280 parts per million to what they are today of around 378 parts per million. If we exploit the tar sands, it has the potential to pump into the atmosphere an additional 120 parts per million. This would send us over 500 parts per million, and that is a recipe for runaway climate change. Most scientists today agree that for a sustainable Earth, we need to keep our carbon levels at around 350 parts per million. We need to start decreasing our carbon levels, not continue to increase them. A Congressional Research Service was quoted in the Climate News 2012 in an article, Why Tar Sands More Pollutant and Why It Matters. It showed that the tar sands has the potential to put it into the atmosphere 21 metric tons of CO2 a year. Now, this type of oil is 14 to 20% more, contains more pollutants than regular natural gas or oil. Raising the greenhouse gases will have many effects. The United States Environmental Protection Agency stated that these effects are to raise Earth's temperature, increase rainfall patterns, reduce the ice caps and the permafrost, and increase ocean acidity. All these changes will impact our daily lives. They will impact the food supply, our water resources, our infrastructure, our ecosystem, and our own health. In conclusion, I've given you the factual data pertaining to both the economic and environmental impacts of building this pipeline. Does the short-term economic benefit outweigh the long-term potential environmental devastation of building this pipeline?